Hi, Arun. Welcome to Life Talks. Glad to have you on the show. Arun is a founder of a health tech Menda Talk. I would love Arun to introduce himself and share his journey on what this company is doing and what motivated you to start this in the first place. And we'll also hear some of other interesting challenges and how you overcame during your life. So, Arun, over to you.
Yeah, Surbi, thanks for having me and organizing this space. Excited to share a little bit more about my journey. In a nutshell, where I'm at right now. So, as you said, running this company called Menda Health, we're focused on reversing chronic pain. And that's a novel concept. Most people, including myself, know the word pain management. And I had a very personal experience with chronic pain where I developed pretty debilitating back pain after a basketball injury for 5 years. And imagine I was 24 years old and I thought my life would never be the same. Doctors told me I would never get better. I was diagnosed with something called degenerative disc disease. And fast forward 5 years, I went through this kind of really profound healing recovery experience where I realized that I had a lot more power over my physical body,
Mhm.
over my mental state, over even my dreams and aspirations. And so everything after that moment kind of changed. And there was a really cool, fun, ever evolving journey between then and now. And the company is just kind of one aspect of that. But yeah, it's been fun and would love to share more about it.
Yeah, that's super inspiring and interesting. So basically, like you were very active, I'm guessing, with basketball and everything, and then this thing happened for 5-ish years. That's a long time. And then the healing is not just physical, but you're saying it's multidimensional. So looking backward, do you think it, like, I know 5 years is a long time of your life, and especially in your 20s, do you think it was like a blessing in disguise which opened new doors? Or like was it like how would you share that experience and what like changed in your life after going through that?
Yeah, it's a blessing now, looking back in hindsight. While
Mhm.
I was going through that experience, I would not describe it in that way at all. And even shortly after, I mean, it's hard to make sense of something like that. I
Mhm.
went through quite a bit of agony, uh, really giving up a lot of the physical activities that I was doing, even friendships, because a lot of friendships are based on, hey, let's go out and do something. I used to love dancing and
Mhm.
hiking and all the kind of activity, outdoor type stuff. And so during that, went through kind of a pretty severe identity crisis of who am I without those things? And I had to pick up kind of different hobbies like reading very reluctantly. Um, and then kind of went through this experience where
Mhm.
uh, you start to, I think, hopefully can find some meaning in
Mhm.
an experience like that. And to be more specific, what the experience that I had was I started to read more and understand more about what we now call modern pain neuroscience. So people who are experiencing physical pain, um, the dominant thought usually is if something's hurting, there must be something wrong in the body
Mhm.
at that place, right? So if your back is hurting, something must be wrong with your spine or your lower back. Um, the modern science actually says something very different because that model doesn't quite fit all the conditions that we see. So there is something called phantom limb pain, where I don't know if you know about that. If someone's had an amputation, so like a soldier or
Mhm.
someone who's gotten injured, they still feel pain in the leg that's no longer there, or the limb, the arm that's no longer there. And it's a very well documented medical phenomenon.
Okay.
Um, Something more common are like migraines. We don't really know there's no physical cause that we can find for
Mhm.
migraines amongst all migraine sufferers.
Right, right.
Um, and so there are all these reasons why that old model doesn't work. And the new model really talks more about emotions and stressors. And I, I won't get totally into it now because I want to
Mhm.
answer the question that you asked. But I started realizing how my life experiences, like difficult childhood experiences that I had, illnesses that I had when I was younger, were showing up in my body, and how I actually had a lot of power to really change the way that I was interpreting those experiences. Um, and that kind of shifted my frame around, well, I have all these ideas or thoughts. One is I want to, bike
Mm-hmm.
again. Then maybe following that is I feel like I want to travel the world, or I have dreams to go to this country, or to
Mm-hmm.
become a musician. So it started this kind of snowball effect where, yes, the catalyst was this physical experience. Now I look back, I'm very thankful that I was able to relate to that in a very different way, from a place of feeling powerful again, versus being trapped in my body and even trapped in my life experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically, it's more like you're saying that though the cause was the basketball injury, but it was not that just that factor gave or lasted for that long of a pain, but it was more over the years, some other things which we often overlook. So there are more reasons. And that once you figured that out and found a way, you were able to heal yourself. So I have a question. What motivated you to like go through that phase during those 5 years? Because I'm guessing you didn't know like how long it's gonna last, right? And like your life was changed. So what was keeping you up every day, even to read, to find out what was the driving force?
It came in waves. It wasn't always there. It wasn't,
Mhm.
ongoing that whole time. And you would get kind of bursts of excitement or hope that you could find something, whether it was a referral to some specialist, right? Then you think, oh, this is going to be the person who understands what I'm going through and can figure it out. And then that specialist doesn't work, and then you go to physical therapy and you say, okay, this is the person who's going to be able to help me get back on my feet. And then you do physical therapy for 9 months, and at the end of it, you feel very dejected. So it was kind of that up and down journey. Um, I will say that I'm a pretty hopeful person and strong person generally, and I've been through a lot previously. So that definitely contributed to keeping my kind of
You
hope
were pretty
alive,
resilient.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and kind of waiting for something that um, I could kind of consume, or really just, yeah, keeping that hope there. Um, and eventually something came my way that really resonated with me. And
Mhm.
I think I was also strong enough to kind of accept that and not fight it too much.
That's very interesting. So basically, what is like looking back in hindsight, what is a nugget that you would like to share with the listeners here? People have different types of like, ups and downs in life and of different intensity, different time duration. But because have you been through something like this? And I really kudos to your like resilience that you went through it. So what would you share that anyone can, like don't give up in life, right? Things can change. It's really inspiring.
It's, yeah, it's never one size fits all, right?
Mhm.
So it's hard to share one thing, but
Couple of
I
things, I'm
can
not
talk
limiting to one, but it's just
from
like
my
maybe something
experience.
resonates
Yeah,
with someone today, right? Who knows if somebody's listening and something can resonate with them, it can give them, as you said, hope, a new hope. And
yeah,
I agree, of course we can't change the entire world, but maybe even if it helps one person, why not?
yeah. I would say express yourself.
Hmm.
Um, and if you can, this can be challenging, but find a group of people around you who you can express yourself to, who you can be vulnerable around how you're doing. Because, uh, yeah, it's those gifts that we hold inside, or we believe we have stories that we've heard from others, that we tell ourselves that this cannot be done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we're able to express that doubt or that fear, the the kind of negative aspects of those stories tend to dissipate, and something else, like our dreams, or what we actually want to do, can take its place. Um, yeah,
Super interesting. Yeah, I've never heard that piece of wisdom that expressing yourself could be life changing.
yeah. Well, I think I think guys have a tougher time doing this than women. Some in a lot of cases, and I'm not saying it's hard to make a blanket statement, but guys don't always have a space to do so. And so I think that's definitely part of what I'm sharing is as a guy, how do you find that space to really be vulnerable and to share kind of what you're feeling and what you're thinking and the dreams you have, or even the pain that you're going through, right? And that can be very shameful for people to express. That can be very difficult. A lot of the people that we work with, a lot of them are women who have been through really tough experiences. They're either caregivers for 24/7 in addition to financially giving for this person. So they're working, they're providing physically, emotionally. A lot of them have had some sort of abuse or really difficult childhood experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just amazed that when it's very hard for people to talk about those experiences outside of or kind of in our day-to-day space, and when people are actually able to come into a place where they're able to express that, not only does their physical pain start to resolve, which is kind of the first thread that we're on, but people start to realize that others are going through similar things, and they have a lot of power in their own ideas and a lot of power to be able to actually achieve the things that they want.
That's interesting because I'm wondering like why people stop themselves, whether it's like men, women. I think sometimes don't express myself because there is this innate fear. I think I'm still more expressive than some of the other people I know, but still there is this fear. Maybe somebody expressed themselves and that didn't go well, and then they are like scared for life that okay, I took a chance and I did that,
Yeah.
but the maybe somehow it's a chance, right? You don't know your friend Tom, Jerry, Harry, who's going to take it positively, and you just tried it and then it backfired. So what would you suggest someone who is just hesitant because of that?
Yeah, you can't do it with everyone. So Brene Brown says this really well, and she talked about how pick your inner circle. You choose wisely the people that you entrust with that vulnerability
Mm-hmm.
or, kind of the deepest parts of you. And so you definitely shouldn't do it with the stranger on the street because that's maybe bound to, go backwards. And sometimes that little bit of vulnerability is what allows you to feel more trust and to feel closer to someone else. So I would say maybe just take baby steps in that direction and give it
Yeah,
a little try.
it's something really quite interesting here that I don't think mostly people want to do it with strangers, but sometimes it's unexpected reaction from someone, right? That you wouldn't like hope for, but then it's like, don't give up, right? There are other people. Don't go to the same person, but go to the next person. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's pivot here a bit. So what motivates you these days, and what motivated you to start this like startup that you're doing to help people get relief from pain? What's the product in a like on a very high level?
Yeah. So there's a thread between what we were just talking about in here, and that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of what I was bringing up. Expression. One of my kind of forms of expression, um, I guess, even above that. So what I'm trying to do more and more is to be fully expressed in all the things that I think, all the things that I want, all the things that rub me the wrong way when I'm with someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just be open as much as I can about these things. And so, coming back to your question, I went through this experience. One of the things that I really wanted to do was share this with other people. How do I? And I first started by every person who came to me, and they said, "Oh, my back is hurting." I would say, "I have the answer. By the way, let me just tell you." And I got very annoying about it. I would basically preach to people, and that's never really a good way
But
to
did it
to
work?
engage. And
Their pain would go. Sorry,
no, 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 no. I mean, like this stuff works, yes, but sharing it with someone in that way is not really empathetic. It's not really understanding what they've been through, where they are. So really switching from trying to, speak at someone versus trying to understand what they even want. Do they even want this? Do they even want to be out of pain? It's maybe a strange question, but if you don't, but that's okay. Not to have any judgment about anybody. And so this kind of need for wanting to express this slowly shifted and transformed. And a year and a half later is when I decided to start Menda. And in between, I had 5 things that I had written down that I wanted to do that were kind of in line with this expression. And I came up with those 5 things again, sitting on this plane on the way back from Barcelona with a friend. And one was do a Vipassana retreat, so sit in silence and meditate for 10 days. And there were other things like that. And these were all kind of ways of just ideas that I had that I never really felt like I could do because I needed to work and I needed to be responsible. And I had all these constraints around me. So I was kind of on this kick of expressing myself and in different ways. And so now kind of fast forward to today, what that looks like is I'm like creating a music album with some friends.
Wow.
I'm exploring the city that I live in and building this company, which all of these are kind of, different ways of enabling that expression or the things that I really want. And the company itself is really taking people through a similar journey. But very specifically, when you develop chronic pain, you start to get really afraid of different movements and and you get afraid of things that might trigger the pain.
Right.
And we teach people actually how to shift their relationship to the symptom, to the sensations that are coming from the body. And it's a very skill-based thing.
So is it like an online program or is there a product?
It's both. Yeah. So we have therapists. So you will see one of our pain therapists. They're trained as a pain therapist, and you can use your insurance. So there's that component. And then you go home between sessions and you're practicing the skills that they introduced to you in that session. You're tracking your biometrics. So there's something called heart rate variability, which is a measure of like how well your body responds to stress. And you're basically going through this program. And we see that after about 12 weeks, a third of people get 50% or 100% better. And they've been in pain for an average of 5 years.
Yeah, the results are sounding very impactful.
Yeah.
So what really, is it like more in their mind? Is it like, sorry, excuse me if I'm using like placebo effect or something, that they are like more hopeful? Is that the right term? Or I mean, medical science is something different. Like how can a normal person like a mango man can use it, who is not maybe going through such a chronic pain, but better to prevent so that they don't even go there, right? So what can a normal person do, or what is their maybe the step to be aware that are they on their journey and maybe after a few years they're going to land there?
Yeah, great question. So it's not woo woo, it's not holding hands and singing kumbaya. There's a lot of really hardcore science and research behind this. The kind of 2 things I'll share. One is there were some researchers at Northwestern University in a cognitive neuroscience lab that were able to predict who would go from an injury to chronic pain. So chronic pain meaning more than 6 months, just by scanning people's brains.
Okay, interesting.
And the reason is that we know where in the brain chronic pain lives. The brain is the creator of all the pain that we feel. And when pain goes on from 0 months to 3 months to 6 months, it starts shifting the region in the brain in which it's produced. And what happens is then that region of the brain, which is called our amygdala, becomes really sensitive to all the other stimuli in our life that promote danger. So, for example, if you are in a really stressful relationship, it's going to activate your pain pathways.
Whether it's
So,
emotional
for the
or physical
majority of
pain,
people,
it's the same pain pathway. Okay.
yep, after 6 months, they cross. So,
Okay.
that's what the research and science says. And none of that predictor has anything to do with your mood. About 5% of it has anything to do with your mood, so your hope or your not hope. Um, it's all to do with your previous life experiences. So has your nervous system been sensitized to a point where when you get injured, it becomes very hard for it to recover?
So help me understand. So basically, somebody who is not even injured, if they scan their brain, who is not even going through a pain currently, they can figure it out that are they gonna have a chronic pain in future, or it's more like somebody who already is going through it and their chances of developing into chronic pain.
A little bit of both. So if we're looking at the very hardcore
Mm-hmm.
kind of tracking person, let's take that
Okay.
example. If someone's measuring their heart rate variability,
Mm-hmm.
if your heart rate variability is low constantly, you're going to have a lot of muscle tension, and the chances that you develop chronic pain become much higher.
Okay. Okay.
So you could download a free app, you could download our app and check over the period of a couple of weeks and see what's your baseline. If it's below 50, then you're actually going to be more susceptible for not just pain, but other health issues.
Interesting.
Um,
And it needs a physical
so
device,
that,
something.
yeah, Apple Watch can measure it, Fitbit. You can measure with your phone camera. So we have a integration where you can just use your phone and capture
Interesting.
it. It can measure your heartbeat from your finger.
Okay.
Um, and then the other case that we talk about is people who get injured
Mm-hmm.
should receive not just physical therapy, but also treatment that we provide,
Mm-hmm.
because you must address both mental and physical aspects, right? An
Yeah.
injury is never purely physical. How we respond to it is also really important.
Yeah. I agree. So those are the methods that your company is now incorporating in healing people.
Yeah, and I'll share one more thing, because for someone who is in pain, let's say listening to this can sound crazy, and maybe even to you it can sound like a little hard to grasp or understand. Um, there was research done on this
Mm-hmm.
protocol. It's called pain reprocessing therapy, and they
Okay.
took a group of patients with 10 years of back pain on average,
Mm-hmm.
and they put them through a 4-week treatment. And after 4 weeks, 2/3 had no pain anymore.
Wow.
And the results lasted a year. So there was no treatment or intervention done for the year after that. And those people, the pain didn't come back.
Okay.
And this was a randomized control trial. So gold standard in our scientific medical community
Okay.
of you put people in different camps. And
Yeah.
so the research is really promising.
That's interesting. Yeah, we do product management or products like even the software products like that A/B testing, multivariate testing. So I understand the concept where there is
Yeah.
really hardly any, if there is like variance, really low variance, you try to take the population like that. Okay, interesting. So
Yeah.
looking back, like what would you recommend people through your journey? Like as our theme of the podcast is taking risk and coming out of it, and have better professional life and really better life overall. So what do you recommend? Like if you even want to share something, some insights with folks here.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I keep coming back to is really listen to, this is very cheesy, but something I call like whispers of the heart. Like we all have these kind of ideas
Mm-hmm.
that we don't know where they came from. So like maybe you want to start a restaurant, or maybe a food truck, or maybe you want to go to Cambodia and you don't know why. You might have read it on a blog sometime, or maybe it just came out of somewhere. And I think everybody has these ideas or thoughts that they can't get out of their head. And so I would say write those down and start to do them. And if it becomes really scary around, no, but I can't do that, or there's these 10 reasons why that is not possible, they might be valid. I'm not saying you should ignore those. But it doesn't hurt to also get maybe some support, whether it's a friend who can really challenge those stories or those opinions, or a therapist, or a coach, or someone else that you trust. So I would say really follow those, because I think that's where we often can block ourselves from the things that we really want, and from the kind of excitement and joy that can come once we
So what is
pursue
something
that
that
path.
you have pursued that opened the doors if you wouldn't have pursued, wouldn't have had, like, as you're saying, whether it's a trip or doing something, starting something, what was like any example from your life on this?
Yeah, the first was when I quit that job, and I was just very unhappy in it. And I knew that, but I didn't know what to do about it. And I thought maybe everybody's unhappy, or maybe I still have a responsibility to work, or maybe I just need to suck it up. All the things that I was
Mhm.
kind of going back and forth about. Um, and I took a chance, I took a risk against all of those opinions and kind of things that my mind was saying. And just overcoming that fear or taking that risk was such a huge step in then building the muscle of taking more risks. And so since then, yeah, I already mentioned some of the things, but working on music a lot more than I used to. And um, yeah, just kind of things that you're not supposed to do as an adult, but we all want to do. And it takes a risk to actually start that thing, or to continue. Yeah,
So basically carving your own path. And of course, everybody's situation is different. Maybe somebody cannot quit their job for XYZ reasons, but still figure out maybe it's a small change that you make in your life, and then you go and start making bigger changes, but start somewhere, follow your heart and passion.
exactly. Exactly.
Thanks, Arun.
Well
It's
said.
been wonderful listening to your story and how actually it changed your path of life, and you're helping now others to change their path of life. Very inspirational. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and your time with me and our listeners here.
Yeah, this has been fun, Sophie. Thanks for having me again, and um, it was a pleasure to share with you, and other people get excited about this stuff.
Thank you.